Hi guys, today what we're going to be looking at is the use of quotation marks in your writing. A couple of snazzy pictures here for you. So speech marks go around the parts of the sentence that are actually spoken by someone. The punctuation used is always before the last quotation mark. So that means, for example, we see a really excited Jurgen Klopp here. So, we won, shouted the excited coach. The punctuation used at the end is an exclamation mark, and that's always before the last quotation mark. And also another important rule about using quotation marks is the first letter of the first word in this actual bit that's spoken is always used, it's always written in capital letter. So another example of this is, I cannot wait for lunchtime, groaned the hungry boy. So following on for the rule, the first letter in a bit of speech, in this case is an I, is always done in capital letter. But that also goes without saying because the I is referring to that person himself. So it's always going to be used capital I. At the end of the actual speech, I've included a comma because it's not actually the end of the sentence. It's more so just the end of the actual speech, and the comma is used before the last quotation mark. Alright, let's have a look here. This time around, this is a little bit different. Previously, we looked at examples where there was speech followed up by who said this speech. In this case, who said the speech is included at the start. So the hungry boy whispered, comma, I hope we get nachos for lunch. Full stop. So the full stop is used because it is the end of the sentence and it's used before the last quotation mark. But if you're going to go down the avenue of who said the actual bit of speech at the start of your sentence, you use a comma. So yeah, just depending on how you decide to structure your sentence determines on what punctuation you're going to be using at the start or at the end. So in your writing, if you've got two people having a chat with each other, another important rule about quotation marks is that you always start a new line for a new speaker. So for example, we've got two boys here. This boy here and this boy here. So the first boy, Hugh mumbled, comma, I'm so happy that we have eggs and toast instead of cereal for breakfast. I quite like cereal, especially if it's a bowl of Cocoa Pops, replied Felipe. I hate Cocoa Pops, Hugh blurted. So, first things first, let's just look at the quotation mark rules that we've just learned previously. So Hugh mumbled. So Hugh is the one who's speaking here, and I've mentioned it first. And because I've mentioned it first, I'll put a comma, and then before the first quotation mark, and then after the first quotation mark, capital letter, and then because it's the end of the sentence, I'll put the full stop before the last quotation mark. And again, following on the previous rules that we've just learned, I quite like cereal, especially if it's a bowl of Cocoa Pops, comma, because it's still not the end of a sentence yet, before the last quotation mark, replied Felipe. And sorry, as well as that, capital I here, because it's the start of a bit of speech. I hate Cocoa Pops, comma, Hugh blurted. As well as that, we always start a new line for a new speaker. So Hugh is speaking here. And as soon as Felipe starts speaking, he has a new line for himself. And then it's back to Hugh again, so he's got his own line there. Right, so that's pretty much quotation marks in a nutshell. So that will go really nicely with the activity that you're going to be doing today. If you've got any issues, write a message up on the Google Classroom, on the stream messages there, and good luck with that. Keep in touch. Take care of yourself and always wash your hands. Thanks, guys. Bye.